Welcome all of you. We are delighted to see all of you here on a Saturday evening. At AMA, our idea is to promote an exchange of ideas, the knowledge and the experiences, sharing of experiences in the principles and practice of management. And since we all of us are now global citizen, everything happens in any corner of the world, makes an impact on us, differentiates us. So today we have a very allow me to use the word burning topic. Ever since President Trump has taken over, there is a kind of tariff war which is started, and we know it has a very serious implications. And on the flip side, as you will hear today, we have opportunities also in the same. So we have a very distinguished panel of members with us today who will be talking about it. At AMA, we have a AMA Center for International Trade, which uh, organizes this kind of relevant talks time to time. So our first distinguished speaker today is Dr. Sunil Parekh. He's a very well-known among all of us. Is member of Ahmedabad Management Association's Executive Governing Council, and he has been a senior strategic advisor to the Zydus Life Sciences Group and also to the Jubilant Bhartiya Group. Those who don't know, the Domino's also comes from that group. He has 48 years experience across India, Africa, and the USA. He serves on the boards of Gujarat Venture Finance Limited, iCreate, and multiple startup incubators, and has been mentor to various successful innovation-based startups. He co-founded Tech Exchange, which is India-UK partnership for startups, and is an arbitrator with the Indian Council of Arbitration. Is spoken of at the various global forums, including UNFCCC, COP27, TEDx, G20 seminars, and World Economic Forum's various forums, as much I remember. He has been honored with the awards such as ET Icon in 2018 and the DELIT Award 2023 for global impact and innovation and leadership. I welcome you, Dr. Sunil Parekh. Please. Although he's our own board member, I think he's So, partnering in the talk today with Dr. Sunil Parekh, we have another distinguished panel member, top specialist, who will be talking, Dr. CA Minan Butch, who is an Exim business growth and export-import policy expert with over 14 years of experience in indirect taxes, GST, foreign trade policy, and customs. As the lead brain at the BizBrain Advisors, she provides strategic solutions for taxation and trade policy. She has been appointed to the Institute of Chartered Accountant of India's Board of Studies and holds distinction of achieving the highest score in India for indirect taxes and CA final exams. Wonderful. So with experience at KPMG, Deloitte, and the ICICI Bank, she specializes in the WR, which we call, and GST and customs and SEO MET. She is helping businesses optimize their compliances, efficiencies, and international trade growth. Welcome, Miranben. Please. Since today is International Women's Day, allow us to give Dr. Parekh, allow us to privilege the advantage to her.
Oh, yes,
And
yes,
you
sir.
kindly join.
Oh, yes, yes. On behalf of women power.
So, friends, as we all know, the tariffs, which is the taxes put on the exports or imports, are very decisive factors in the pricing, in the logistics, in the impact. It impacts the adversely or favorably to the price of the product which is exported, and eventually it leads to the effect on the domestic industry production also. It can lead to reduce the trade volumes because it becomes unaffordable. Also the economic inefficiencies it brings, because when you compare with other countries, you lose the global competence, and then it becomes difficult to survive. At times it lead to retaliations like the talks which are going on now. If X country is giving this much, we will also retaliate and we will also increase the trade war. And for government, the tariffs also impact on the revenue generation which it gets from imports and exports. And the ultimate bad effect will be also on the supply chain as we understand it. So this is the subject for the experts to talk. I'll hand over to Dr. Sunil Parekh to begin with his opening remarks.
So good evening, friends. I hope you've been bombarded enough on the TV about the topic that we are discussing today. I think very little research has gone into it and a lot of rhetoric is there. So when you hear people's opinion, you feel it is a very emotional response rather than a considered view of what the facts are. And I see many friends here, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity to AMA for today's talk. So friends, Indo-American Chamber of Commerce is here, represented by Mr. And I think it's appropriate that there are several members of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and the Indo-American associations where this is important, very important issue for them as well. We all know that US is the biggest economy in the world. It is also the largest market in the world. There are only two large markets today, the US and China. The US actually imports roughly every year $3 trillion worth of goods and exports $2 trillion worth of goods, and they have a deficit of $1 trillion. China, on the other hand, has a total of not $5 but $6 trillion, out of which 3.5 is exports and 2.5 is imports. So they have a surplus of $1 trillion. Now, if we have to grow for Viksit Bharat, last 20 years, if you take an average of GDP growth of India, it is 6.5%. In order to reach Viksit Bharat in 2047, we have to grow at close to 8.5% to be able to achieve our goal. And this differential has to come from the external trade side. The domestic market is giving us about 6.5% growth. The next 2% will have to come from international, additional international development. So one way or another, we have to find our way into some export markets and integrate ourselves into some big market, so that the accelerated pace of development helps us to achieve our goals. China is a problem area for us, and therefore the only willy-nilly, the largest market that remains for us is the US. Now the problem is that the US knows that it is playing this role for the rest of the world. And for the first time, we have a president who recognizes the strength of the US and is wanting to leverage that to influence all other countries to do what they want us to do. So this is the scenario and this is the background in which Mr. Trump is operating. Today's presentation is broken into about 8 points. There is the US-India trade overview, which I will share with you. Then Trump tariffs. What are reciprocal tariffs? Then the US world trade view, the China plus one and the other opportunities that are emerging. And then the next 4 slides will be by Menal, who has done a lot of work in this area of EXIM, where she will discuss not only these sectors which are likely to be affected both for exports and for imports, but also the major products that are likely to be impacted, both from the Indian point of view and from Gujarat industries point of view. So we are trying to bring the whole big issue home. We must bear in mind, friends, that Piyush Goyal is back today. He has struggled because the Americans want to open the agricultural sector, which is suicide for any political party in India. Our average weighted average duty on agricultural commodities some 37.5 or 40%. If they wanted to go to 2%, our farmers will get wiped out, and we are talking about billions of people. So it's not going to be possible. But they say you have to open it, if not at one shot. In all, they want everything that we trade on the table. They don't want to deal only with industrial goods. They don't only want to deal with services. They want to deal with everything. A comprehensive approach to working with US. And they are asking a lot of other things, which I will talk about later after our presentation, is that what is it that the US really wants to do in this whole game? So this is the table of contents. I'll quickly go through this. This is the older presentation. Okay. So US-India tariff overview. Countries have trade surplus, and the US is targeting all those countries who are exporting more to the US and importing less from the US. Protectionism, high tariffs, and a focus on local manufacturing in US called MAGA, which is Make America Great Again, is the key agenda on the table. Bilateral merchandise trade. This does not include services. It does not include the other aspects, the softer exchanges that take place. It is only about goods. And this trade figure for the year 2023, bottom one, is 76 billion of exports and 42 of imports from the US. So we have a trade deficit of about 34 billion with the US. And India has been repeatedly named as the tariff king because of 7 products. One of them is Harley Davidson, where we used to charge 150% thanks to Bajaj and others. So they didn't want this expensive motorbikes to come to India. They thought they will also be able to produce those things. Then whiskies, then wines, all luxury products. If you are paying 10,000 rupees a bottle of whiskey, you might as well pay 20,000 rupees. How does it make a difference? It's for the rich. But everything now has come under the microscope, every item, everything with the US. Retaliatory tariffs on India are likely to be high. Trump 1.0 impacted Indian aluminum and steel industry, where they introduced a duty, and it crippled our aluminum and steel exports to the US by 45% during Trump 1.0. So when he says something and he follows through with it, it did create an impact. There was some partial release, if I remember right, where they gave us relief. But it really hits at the company level much more than it does at the national level. Because how much is total, out of the total economy, how much is industry? Out of industry, how much is steel? Out of steel, how much are those products which have been hit? So economically, the overall impact of all these Trump tariffs is going to be marginal, as I'll explain to you. But at individual company levels, it can be proved to be very, very difficult because of his targeting of this thing. The total amount of exports that we have from India is $475 billion, out of which $75 billion goes to America. And out of this $75 billion, it represents roughly 17 to 18% of our total India's exports. And in terms of US, it represents, if you take the value of $42 billion that we are importing from them, and for 75, totally it represents only 2% of theirs. So we are insignificant in their calculation, but we are almost close to 1/5 of what we are doing with the Americas. Now, if they were to apply an average trade tariff ratio, which means if you multiply, what is the average tariff that India charges? Average. We can take a simple average of all the trades and divide by the total number of entries. Or you can take a weighted average. कि कई product कितना percentage ऊपर जाए छे, and then you take a weighted average. Then our weighted average, there are 2 estimates. The Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, which is a very important body, says it is roughly 7.5%. India's total weighted average was not high. But the conservative people are saying that actually when you measure it, depending on how you measure it, it's close to 10%. Similarly, how much is US in that respect? What is US's customs duty on all the imports that they have? It is about 2.5%. So on an average, we can say there is a differential of 7 to 8%. Now, if US was to slap across the country tariff of 10%, then our exports of 75 billion may be hit to the tune of $7 billion. And if you take $7 billion as a percentage of GDP, then it comes to about 0.1, 0.2%. So if everything goes bad with the US, it's not likely to hit our GDP. But individual companies who are in this business, who are exporting, and we will discuss which products and which companies are doing it, are likely to be hit in a bigger way. So please bear this perspective. The other point I want to make here is that the other factors in favor of India's importance is that we are party to many more agenda and activities with the US. We are of strategic importance to them for the Indo-Pacific region. We are the only important counterbalance for China. And therefore, this leverage is there. They want to cultivate India and they will go soft on us in order to contain China. If China ceases to be a threat, then the help they are giving us will also correspondingly disappear. We also have an arrangement called the Quad, where there are 4 countries and they are all working very close, where the US is also there, Japan is there, India is there, Australia. There is BRICS, which the America doesn't like. And they feel that Trump has said, if you recall, that if you pursue a currency towards going away from the US dollar as the international currency, every member of GRIPS is going to be completely thrashed out of the US market. And therefore, and he has now pointed that the person who is needling BRICS to do this is actually India. So India has a small game in the whole but actually they identified India as the main mover in this respect. IMEC is the India, Middle East, European corridor, which is a counter to China's famous corridor that they have. And therefore, this is also another engagement where the US is supporting us in the G20 and the G7 meetings. There is a defense arrangement with the US. We don't have a total alignment, but we have now for the first time been allowed to buy F-35 planes, which the Biden administration had said no. They've given us Javelin, they've given us Strikers. These are all things that were absolutely state of the art, latest in the fight that they have now sanctioned as part of defense arrangements. And we are also part of the geopolitical strategy that I mentioned to you for the Asia Pacific. And now there is the technology and AI development where the world over people say that if you really want to develop quickly and fast, India has to play a major role. And in the conference that took place in Paris, there was a recognition that without India, it will be very difficult for any country in the world to have that kind of manpower, talent, and resources to drive it forward. So we have a game here where the US is also battling with China to get supremacy in new technology, including quantum and AI, where India has to play a role. Today, US is the third largest investor in India in FDI and a flow of roughly $65 billion between April 2000 and March 24. So trade is one aspect of the economic relationship. Investments is another important dimension where US is also important to us. Bilateral trade relationships have doubled from only $60 billion in 2015. It has gone up to $120 billion in 2025. So in 10 years, we have doubled our value. Strategic partnerships have also deepened in several areas. And therefore, even during the pandemic, when it stressed the entire global chain, India remained as a major friend of the US in all the vaccines that we were supplying worldwide. Recent announcement in the budget of 2025, our national budget, the finance minister has dropped the customs duty on 32 products, if I remember right, Meenal. On where say unilaterally we have said we will reduce prices. So duty on Harley Davidson, bourbon, whiskey, wines, and a lot of luxury products and many others have actually dropped significantly in preparation for Modi's visit to say, we are not going to fight with you. Let's talk. Don't slap duties on us. Let's negotiate and come to an agreement, which is good for you and which is good for us. And it was a very strategic move, in our opinion, that it has really helped to soften. Otherwise, he is in the mood to slap across the country duties without any discussions with them at all. The other elements that we dropped the prices was besides luxury cars and bikes, we dropped customs duty on chemicals, solar cells, lab chemicals, semiconductor devices, building materials, marbles, granite, slabs, home furniture, electricity meters, electronic parts, and so on and so forth, totaling 32. We have also introduced something which has not caught the eye of any one of us in the media. And that is, there is an element called the Agricultural Infrastructure Development Cess that the government of India has introduced for all these products where the import duty has been reduced, thereby compensating the loss in customs duty and also trying to protect it and give it in a hedged way. Now, for some reason, this has not been known to the open world so vividly. And we still wonder what will be the reaction of the US government to say customs duty बढ़ा दिया, अगर कम कर दिया और सेस बढ़ा दिया तो net effect कितना हुआ? And that will be another discussion during negotiations. But this is also a ploy that is deployed by us for the same. And last is that we really need to negotiate what he calls fair play and a reciprocal plan. If you see on the right, US's average weighted is about 2.5%. And on the other extreme is India, which is 12%, 10 to 12%. So the entire world is between the US and India. And we are the pack. We are called the tariff kings for no correct reasons. And the US and Japan, and in fact China, the average duty rate is actually lower than that of the US. They actually believe in free trade, and they have practiced free trade. So Danga, they are close to 2%. And they believe that we are so big and competitive that we can compete with anybody in any market because of the scale of operations. It nullifies all those small things in the process. Now this is the range. Now, US share in India's exports. If you look at the first, second, and is there a pointer? Yeah. If you look at the, sorry, which is the button? Battery nahi hai. Sorry, ulta kar raha hu. Wow, made in America. If you look at the third column, if you look at the third column here, this is US billion dollars in the financial year 24, which has ended. India's total exports to the US was 77 billion. Our total exports to the world the same year was 437. If you divide 77 by 437, you land up at 17 to 18%. So this is the position of India. Now, if you divide our exports of 77 billion, they are in two parts: petroleum and crude products exports, and non-POL, non-petroleum products. So 5 of this and 71 of this. Out of 71, agriculture is 5, minerals and ores, which is coal and other things, is 0.1, and manufactured goods is 65. So now you realize that our composition is predominantly small agriculture and very large manufactured. And in manufactured, what we export to from India to the US are only 5 products. These 5 products account for, the first is chemicals and related, which is 12%. Then there is engineering goods, which is 16 billion, which is 15.8. Then there is electronic goods, which is 10. And if you add textiles and ready-made garments as part of textiles, is another 9.4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These 4 together roughly account for, $50 billion out of the $75 billion. So this is the position of what we are exporting to the US. So the next.
This does not include services?
No, this is goods. We are talking merchandise. Whole discussion that up to now we were thinking we will limit our discussions with the US only to merchandise. But we have learned through reliable sources that in Washington they said everything has to be on the table. You may not want to do it now, but agriculture, services, the soft part, the intellectual property, everything, including government procurement. So everything is on the table for discussions. We will discuss and decide what you want to do now, what you don't want to do, what you want to do later. So don't limit it to only bilateral, limit it only to merchandise. And we have been trying very hard for a number of years to limit the discussion only to merchandise so that some result comes, but the bigger impact is not there. Let's see what, now there has been no official announcement so far by Piyush Goyal when he is back. So we will wait for his announcement to see what was the scope of the discussion. That is going to be a very important criteria. Now, what does US export? US exports roughly $2 trillion, as I mentioned to you. Out of it, $353 billion goes to Canada, 323 goes to Mexico. China buys only 166 billion, and India is 42 billion. Now, if you see 1 plus 2 plus 3, we are insignificant. This total is about 700, 800. 800 out of 2 trillion is roughly 40%. These 3 countries whom we are slapped, these were our partner countries. Canada and Mexico are part of the NAFTA deal that they had for free trade agreements. Then NAFTA was replaced by US-Mexico free trade agreement. And in spite of being friends with them, he has slapped his duty on them. There is a free trade agreement and you don't honor it. So the question comes to every Indian's mind is, how reliable is US when they say we want to be your partners? And for how long will they be partners? And when will they turn suddenly? So these are the partners they have, and long-term partners. No animosity. And fentanyl is only being used as a way to use the legal arrangement in the US to say, because of fentanyl, there is a national emergency that gives the power to the US government to the president of America to charge whatever they want in the name of national security. So fentanyl is an excuse. It is not an excuse. It is not. What does buying aeroplanes, cars, and gas from Canada have to do with fentanyl? No connection. But it is to empower the president to use that power that they have. Now, this is what they export. Now, all these countries have slapped counter duties on them. China is going to be effective on the 8th of March. Canada has done on 100 out of 353 billion, 155 billion dollars. They have also slapped 25% duty on American goods coming into Canada. Nobody is drinking American whiskey, which is a very big loss. They drink a lot in cold countries. In terms of imports that US does, they are importing $3 trillion as against their exports of 2 trillion. 3 trillion is 1.7 from other people and 1.3 from 4 people. Predominantly from 440 billion comes from Canada. Mexico exports 472 billion and China exports 448 billion dollars to America. So that gives you the dimensions that we are 1/10, or maybe not 1/10, 1/20th. We are roughly 2% of the total. 2 trillion, 3 trillion में से 76 billion is what we are doing. हम छिलका है. But it is a growing market. American market is saturated. How many things will America buy? They have to, if American business has to grow, they have to export. Like we are saying in India, if you want to grow from 6.5% to 8.5%, we have to export. Everybody wants to export to each other. But what Trump is saying is that you have to be fair about it. We can't charge you 2-3% and you charge us 8-10%. So this is his argument in this bill. Now, trade balances. Now, import minus export is the trade balance. China has a trade balance of almost 300 billion negative with the US. China exports more than it imports. The second is Mexico, 172 billion minus. Third is Vietnam, small country, huge deficit. Why? Because the Chinese have gone to Vietnam and are exporting through Vietnam into the US. That's why it has got, and Vietnam has a free trade agreement with USA. So when China got slapped with a lot of duties, they all moved their investments into Vietnam, and that's why it shot into prominence. 10 years ago, these figures were less than 1/10 of this. You have Ireland. Why is Ireland so important? Apple does all its invoicing and manufacturing and billing through Ireland. It doesn't pay tax in America. So Apple is responsible for the deficit, an American company for the deficit of Ireland and the US. Now that's why they have announced we will invest $500 billion in next 5 years in America, because they don't want this to go away, because this is the source of their profitability. Then, of course, Germany, $85 billion minus. Taiwan, because they are the world's largest chip manufacturers, so $75 billion. Then Japan, $68 billion. South Korea for a variety of items. Then Canada, $63 billion only. But they've got the same duty slapped as China and Mexico, even though their thing 63 is only 1/5 of the deficit of China. And last is India, with about around 40-45 billion. These figures all vary depending on what source you use, but the range is approximately the same. This is how the trade deficit in the US has grown. It was only 846 billion, 900 minus 1 trillion, 1.1 trillion, 1 trillion, 1.2 trillion, and they are really worried about this. Now, how is India different from the US, from the other countries? India, look at China, Canada. Canada has a total exports to the world of 568, out of which 440 goes to the US, 78%. So if USA has a cold, then Canada will get pneumonia. It will come to a grinding halt. Recently, the Reserve Bank Governor of Canada explained what will be the impact of this. He says in less than 6 months, Canada is going to go into recession, jobs will be lost, all the migrants will have a problem, people will leave the country. And he has painted such a dismal picture, saying that first Trudeau should go, and the new fellow who comes must do something to reactivate this whole process. Look at Mexico. They export 592 billion, out of which 472 billion goes to America. Again, it is mainly because of China, that has invested very heavily in the last 8-10 years to enter into the NAFTA free trade agreement through the Mexican route and keep track of it. That's why this smart man Trump has lagaud butch on 2 of his partners, mainly because they are supporting the export of goods of China through local value addition and local merchandise exports. So if India tomorrow says, oh, no problem, I will also go to Vietnam and then supply to China, don't I supply to USA, it's not going to work because they are monitoring everything. China, on the other hand, has exports of $3.3 trillion, of which only 448 billion goes, 11-12%. If tomorrow US says, I don't want to buy anything, China is not going to collapse. They are supplying goods to 172 countries today. They are fully diversified with all kinds of exports to all kinds of countries there. India is 17.7, as I told you, 17 to 18% of our goods are going. And so if it gets rough with the US, I don't think we will have a problem. So as Minal was mentioning, mega is equal to mega plus maga. Make America great again, make India great again. Now, if two people want to make great again, if two bulls come together, what will happen? You have to lock the bull and keep fighting. But he said, we will make mega, something big. Very good politics rhetoric, but practical kya hai? Kaise hoga? So the agreement now is that bilateral trade they have agreed to increase. Today, the bilateral trade between India and US is 190 billion if you include the services. So total 120 billion is export plus import of merchandise, and another 70 billion is services, import plus export is 70. So total bilateral relationship of goods plus services with the US is 190 billion. They have said we will target in a systematic way, monitorable year by year, to go to 500 billion by 2030. Now, this is a very positive sign that while you are talking about, disturbing tariffs and disturbing your import export, the goal is that we want to increase relationship with you. So the feeling that I have is that they want fairness in the tariff that we are charging, and once that is sorted out, there will be mutual access of goods. So we will have to open up something. They will also open up something, and both like two reluctant partners in a failed marriage, they will continue to get closer and closer while bickering and fighting. और 5-10 साल क्या बोलेगा क्या फर्क पड़ता है खोली डालो ना FTA कर दो. You have energy cooperation between India and US. Now, everything in the US is expensive. That's why people, when they come from the US, they buy here and go back. In an area that I'm familiar with, which all of you are familiar with, pharmaceuticals. Who will buy pharmaceuticals in the US and bring them to India? Tell me. We are competitive. We are supplying it cheaper, and therefore people are buying from us. Now, if you want to increase bilateral trade, and they say India must buy, medicines from the US, nobody is going to buy. It's the market. So what India has done is they said, we will not deal in commodities that are not competitive in the US. We will deal in commodities which are internationally priced. We have to buy energy from somewhere. Either is Russia, sometimes they give cheaper, but otherwise we have to buy energy. We are dependent. So let's buy international commodities at international prices more from the US than from other countries. Therefore, this is an important dimension. We are committed to buy their oil. We are committed to increase by $10 billion. So that reduces the deficit from 35 to 25. Then we have said we are going to buy more gas, which is another $5 to $8 billion. So now we are talking about $15-20 billion. Then we said we will buy defense equipment, which is another $10-15 billion. So if you look at the trade balance, if we play our cards right, and the strategic importance that India plays, we are not far away from making an angry man reasonable, but we will have to show something that he has got something and we have lost something in order to make him smile. So collaborate with India, Middle East, this corridor is there, ongoing investments of Indian companies like Hindalco, JSW, Epsilon, Jubilant Pharma. 7.5 billion has taken place just this year alone. And we have Meta's 50,000 kilometer undersea cable. So a lot is going on between the two countries simultaneously. US is also an important source of technology and capital. Now, if you want to grow an Indian economy, you need capital. If you want capital and you get investments from outside, it can give a genuine boost. Like this entire semiconductor industry, over a period of time, will give us another about 0.7 to 0.8% to GDP. And if you look at the figures here, foreign direct investments by the US into different countries, if you add up all this, then this figure is coming close to about, I added it here, and it's such a huge source of money, It is $5.5 trillion of goods, of export, of capital that they have sent to other countries. And similar amount they have received from other countries coming into the thing. Now, after Trump raises the tariff, what will happen to the US? Let's think a minute. America ni su dasha thase. So one question, first point is, if you import something and you charge 25%, it is expected to cost more. Now, if you continue to import that, then the price has gone up. And what will happen to that increased cost? Either it will get passed on to the customer, either it will get absorbed by the elements of the trade. For example, in case of pharma, is the importer, then there is the hospital, then there is the chemist, and everybody has a margin of 15-20%. So we can absorb 25% in 5% in each. And that is the other option that you have. And the third is that other exporters will come in because they say, oh, Indian exports have become expensive. Between the landed price of Indian goods, I can supply cheaper. So while these three countries accounted for 40%, there is 60% of goods of those items coming from other countries. If they step up, like India, then there is a market there. And therefore, this may not cause inflation. If everything is passed on to consumers by the importers in America, then there is an estimate that it will lead to a 0.45% increase in the inflation rate in America, which is hovering around 2%. So udhar bhi kuch zyada nahi hone wala. They can live with that also. Then the fourth point is the purchasing power in the US will go down if it gets passed on. Rise in domestic production will take over time. So many people ask this question, are these tariffs only for negotiations or are they here for the long term? The answer, it is for the long term. If you want foreign companies to come and invest, then you can't decrease the tariff again after they have come and invested. Otherwise, who's going to come and invest for the long term in the US? So this 25% on Canada and all will have to remain steady. And we hope that it doesn't play like Idi Amin of Uganda, I have morning mein utke, I have a dream, and the whole world changes. Then you have a problem. All these investments will go for a toss. There are some items which USA can't produce. For example, a simple example, there are many like that, avocados. They have avocados in very large numbers, and they are grown in Mexico. They are one of the largest suppliers. US doesn't have the climate for it. So what do you do with these products then? You'll have to pay more because it will continue at a higher price. And this is likely to shrink the US economy by 1.5% over the next 5 years. The other thing that President Trump says is that by putting these tariffs, he is going to earn a lot more revenues. Customs duty बढ़ गया, customs tax बढ़ेगा, तो revenue बढ़ेगा. Now the tragedy here is that the last time he did it in Trump for steel and cement and other agricultural products. When China slapped a counter duty on the agricultural produce from USA to China, what happened was that the farmers lost out business. So the US government compensated the farmers for the difference. So all the revenue that they got by charging China on the additional duty, 70% of it went for compensating the farmers for their loss. So net money to the kitty was very small as compared to his projections. Second is, of course, absorbed by the compensated farmers in agriculture retaliatory. The goal of US has declared that we are going to dominate the energy scene. Now, the energy scene, if you want to dominate, then there is a problem because 70% of the fuel oil comes all from Canada to America. Now, that they, instead of 25%, they said we'll charge you 10%, but it is inflationary. It will also hurt their ambition to go green. Now, people say America doesn't want to go green. They've withdrawn from all the agreements of Paris, from all the COP agreements, UN agreement. They don't want to grow and don't want to be a leader in this at all. Now, retaliatory investigation of US companies have started by China. China, that way, is the biggest of both of the three countries. And they have put this, they have a list which is called the list of unreliable companies, which means no government business will be given to them. No visa to their expatriates will be given to them. When it comes to renewable of visas for their expatriates to manage, they will not be automatically given. They will have a special interview for them. Idea is that they will make life tough for companies investing in China, especially American companies. The global protectionism is set to rise. From multilateralism, we have now gone not even to regionalism, we have gone directly to bilateralism. Now we don't care what the WTO says. WTO is finished because nobody listens to WTO. WTO, there were rules and regulations. When someone violated the rules, there was an appellate body. Now US under Obama has not appointed the committee with their nominees so that the appellate board in the WTO is dysfunctional. So if you take a dispute to WTO, there is nobody to adjudicate there. So they have killed it systematically way back during Obama's time. And this is the result that, today WTO, you can do whatever you want. Today, now if suppose he retaliates, US has a bound rate of 20% on a particular product, but he taxes them at 25% as against the bound rate by WTO 20%. He's in violation of WTO rules. Bound means you can't increase your customs duty beyond 20. He's violating it. He has violated. If we put them, then we are also in violation. So the whole world is in violation. Now, if there are trade disputes, who's going to resolve? Nobody. We have going back to the era of Dadagiri. Okay. There's a very nice saying that my friend had said. He says, "What is the golden rule in life? The golden rule is the rule that is made by the people who have the gold." Another 2 minutes and I'll finish. And rerouting of supply chains is going to take place through FTA countries. Now, India, मुझे ये लगता है कि ये, Indians are very good at this. We will somehow manage to reach America, whichever by hook or by crook our goods will go. But we have to be alert because we still don't know what shape and size it will take place. Now, let me explain one point which is important before I close, and that is, what are these tariffs? What kind of tariffs are they thinking of? There are basically 4 types of tariffs. One, which is called the country level tariff. So he has slapped 25%, 10 plus 10 on China. And these are country level, which means anything going from that country to the US, flat rate. So country level tariffs. Second is product level tariff. Steel, aluminum are product level tariffs. Then he has given 5 products which will come into force on 2nd of April with European Union, which includes exports of pharmaceuticals, exports of semiconductors, exports of automobiles from Europe, all going to the US, again, product-wise across the continent. Second type, product-wise. The third is reciprocal tariff. What is reciprocal tariff? Means if you are charging 10% on Harley Davidson, I will charge 10% on Bajaj scooters. Fair enough. Bajaj is not exporting to the US. बोला करो ना क्या फर्क पड़ता है मैंने मार्केट ही नहीं है. So now they have changed that to say that if your products of imports are not the same as my products of export, it doesn't make sense to do product by product bashing. But they say, what is the burden of customs duty on both countries? So therefore, if your product, which is important to you for exports to my country, and I'm charging 10%, and therefore this is the amount of customs duty, then I will charge on products of interest of India that are exporting to the US that same amount of burden and divide it by the quantity to arrive at the customs duty. Now, this is a very tedious exercise. There is no way you can do this by September. There are so many WTO, so many trade studies you have to do before you decide on a tariff. And we are greatly handicapped in the Ministry of Commerce. We really don't have manpower. It's a genuine crisis. And therefore, these things take very long at our place. So one expects that this will be a simpler formula where they'll put everything on the table and slap across the country. We may not have to go, but we don't know. We don't know for sure. And I think if there is no... And the last slide is the opportunity, which she will also talk about with you in greater detail. Up to now, we have been talking about China plus one. Now, when Mexico can't supply their goods to America, where is America going to buy the goods from? If Canada cannot supply their goods because of 25% tariff on Canada, where is America going to buy? This quantum of exports of these 3 countries to the US is $1.3 trillion. That is now being opened out. So, अपना 75 billion में थोड़ा मार पड़ा तो ठीक है, but the opportunity is much bigger than the threat. So, at a country level, genuinely, both Minal and myself believe that the opportunity is greatly more than the threat we have at a national level. But at a company level, you can easily get hammered very badly. So thank you very much. And may I invite Minal now to take us through what happens on the product line basis. One second. Thank you. If you want a collar mic, you can come here. Collar mic, है? के चाल से?
Good evening, everyone. Sunil Bhai has thrown a lot of light on what US is trying to do with the Trump administration, thinking a lot of creative ideas. So there was one interview of S. Jaishankar, and he was being asked that, okay, what do you think about this? He also actually had no answer. He said that when the president is talking out of the box, we'll also have to think out of the box ideas. So on this note, let's dive deeper into this topic on the micro level, because Sunil has talked more on the macro level, such that we get a good background on where US is heading towards, and what Indian exports, Indian and Gujarat exports would be impacting. That is what I'll touch upon. Uh, so broadly, there are many sectors. So I actually only 5 to 6 sectors which are being exported from India, and we have done a product level and a sector level analysis to throw a better light on what each sector could pose a threat or an opportunity for all of us. So again, I was for this, actually we had done a lot of research together, and I was going through the interview of this Howard Lutnick, who is the US Commerce Secretary, and he was being interviewed in India Today, and there are a lot of things being asked. And one of the interviewer, the journalist, said that okay, when we sleep today, there is something else. In the morning, a lot of things come up new, and actually it happened even today. So when we were just heading here, there was a news item which just flashed in my phone saying that no, Piyush Goyal has left from Washington, and now let's see. So that actually creates a lot of curiosity all the time in our mind, until and unless the bilateral trade agreements, which have been talking since long, would be no, formalized or put into the business domain. So out of the total exports, if we talk about from India happening to US, 76 out of $76 billion of exports, almost 20%, 12 products accounts for almost 75% of the exports. So on an impact level, what are the products, what are the sectors going to be impacted? And this is, I'll just take you through how to read this table a little. So let's start from the right. So what are the top 5 countries exporting to US on the product side? So first product category is the gems and jewelry. So US is importing from Canada, Mexico, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Taipei Chinese. So this is the figure: $13.98 billion from Canada, and Mexico $92.94 billion. This is the current exports happening to US of gems and jewelry. Okay, out of which, out of the total basket, India is just doing $10 billion. So as Sunil Bhai rightly shared, that there is a huge opportunity. We can see that if 25% is slapped on this volume, there is a chance that this could come to India. There is one way to look at it. And again, the average annual growth of this sector in the last 5 years is almost 7%. And the tariffs which is being applied by US currently on this product category is in the range of 0 to 14%, and tariffs applied by India is in the range of 3 to 25%. So in the reciprocal tariffs, they have said that the way you treat us is the way we will treat you. So this could be a area where we can look into. However, I'll first go to only sectors which are here, having double digit and higher growth. That poses again a significant opportunity for India. See, electrical machinery has a 44% growth achieved in the last 5 years on an annual basis. In the last 5 years, it's a huge potential opportunity. And China currently exports around $123 billion of this product category to US, versus India exporting only close to $10 billion. So we are only exporting 1/10 of what China is exporting in this product category. And on the engineering side, again, India has a lot of manpower. So along with this, we can also explore the servicing portion. So many ways to look at this data. Again, Mexico is almost close to 92 billions of dollar of exports happening to US. So again, I'll go to mineral oils and fuels, has a 38% growth on all in last 5 years. So Canada again exports 128 billion of dollar of this product category, mineral oils and fuels, mainly the petroleum products, to US, and Mexico is only 4.65, and India is 6.52. So this again shows how much potential an Indian exporter on a country level, as a product level, as an importer level, as a manufacturer level, we can export to US. Again, if so here the tariff which is imposed is 0 to 15% by India. So if they want to export to India, which we are already currently importing, so the range would be in the 0 to 15%. There are almost 12 products, but I'll not go product by product, just to give you an idea as how it works. And again, this is another important sector for US and India, iron and steel related articles falling under chapter 73. So $13.48 billion of exports is happening from China to US, versus India is contributing only close to $3 billion. However, again, Mr. Harvard Lotnick in his interview shared today that this sector, there are few sectors which they want to open up the manufacturing base in US. So iron and steel related products, semiconductor, pharma, these are the sectors where they want people to come and manufacture in US, because they want to increase their manufacturing base to a larger extent. So again, organic chemicals, tractors, textile articles. So textile again is a huge potential, already being exported from India to US, and Mexico already exports 100 and I'm going to line number item number 8, tractors, motor vehicles, etc. Mexico currently exports $130 billion of this product category to US, versus India is only close to $2.5 billion. So when Sunil Bhai talked about $440 billion of exports, and 130 is happening in this tractors, motor vehicles product category. And now in India, we see in Pune, there's a huge manufacturing opportunity, a lot of automobile companies coming up. So we can again ramp up our production facility to cater to this demand. So overall, top 12 export products account for 75% of our total imports by US. And again, now if we go to the next slide, so, yeah. So now quickly, just summarizing on the sectoral impact side, pharma has been a significant contributor for Indian exports from India. So what could be the possible impact on the pharma sector? This is very important because it's a sector of national importance. So pharma may be able to compete without losing its market share, because again on the reciprocal tariff side, the duty rates are almost parallel. Also, lot of our Indian companies have set up their manufacturing base in US. And the impact on the impact side, if we talk about China, so we are heavily dependent on China for our API imports. So that could be a possible impact if they slash some duties, taxes around it. So let's see what it comes in. However, what are the possible solutions which India can look at? So one is of course passing on the price to the customer, which in this case could be a good possibility because the margins are huge. Or no, you can absorb yourself, it depends on the scenario. Again, we can look at export diversification to newer markets, and again setting up of manufacturing base in US. Further, recently under PLI scheme, if government is also pushing to manufacture API in India, I'm aware there's some uh, GIDC coming up near Ankleshwar or somewhere, and they are pushing for API manufacturing in India. However, it will take a long time to achieve. Let's see what it unfolds. So second is a textile and apparel sector. So if duties are imposed on this particular sector, what would be the position of an Indian textile exporter? The first impact is we may not be able to compete with Vietnam and Bangladesh, because we are already in tough competition with these countries, and these countries are nowhere under the radar of US as of now. So this tariff impact hikes could impact us badly if we are not prepared to manage it. Then again, other potential impact could be a lot of share of Chinese exports could come to India. Or we can also explore that if Chinese exports is not happening to US, they could dump those products to India, and this could happen not just in India, on in this particular sector. This could happen in many other sectors. So what could be the possible alternate or solutions to it? So on a manufacturer level, an Indian exporter, we can be better prepared how to combat such hikes, then keep a close watch, which we are already doing, and again focus on bringing more efficiency in the supply chain. The another important sector, which is metal, steel, aluminum, auto components. So there is a lot of restriction on Chinese auto and steel parts, which is likely to increase demand for Indian exports. This again indirectly also triggers that lot of dumping may happen from China to India in this particular sector. So let's see how it unfolds. Also, since lot in India also we are wanting not to import too much steel from China. However, we have not been quite successful on those lines. So on a global level, there is also a possibility that China may need to cut down their production with respect to global demand, keeping the fact in mind that every country wants to boost manufacturing in this sector.
One second. We have two experts here, one from pharma and one from Arvind Mills, part of the top leadership. Do you have any views on textiles and pharma?
Textiles, our sentiment, and I'm talking about industry level sentiment currently, where we are looking for a zero for zero tariff. This is a huge opportunity. And on the man-made fibers, while the shift would be more towards Vietnam, cotton, the shift would be more towards us and towards us and Bangladesh. Apparels, we have a problem. I'm being very honest here, and I'm assuming there are no media people, and please don't quote me if you're here, especially on this point, because the problem is we do not have capacity to increase any more than what we can. We need manpower. So the whole Bangladesh saga, when it went on, we could not bring even 1% of the production from Bangladesh to India. So we need more manufacturing facilities and we need more manpower. But from an overall standpoint, I think it's an opportunity which will bring a huge fillip to Indian exports. If we get a zero for zero, from the current 4.8, 4.9%, we go to 10%, in the next 5 years. Share of the Indian exports of textiles. So that's what we think. Thank you, sir. Thanks.
Rajiv, do you want to add anything on pharma?
Two very quick points, like shifting of manufacturing to the US would only be calibrated. While few of the large pharma manufacturers have announced their plans, but I mean most of the others uh, would be really calibrating it. But at the same time, API manufacturing, I mean, is turning out to be a huge opportunity. And I think the central government is supporting the Jambusar dye stuff manufacturing park is one case in point. And I think so overall the API opportunity may really outweigh the landscape.
And between the economic reason for tariff increase and between the healthcare requirements of American patients, do you think that they will let go of the
I mean, that should, that wisdom, should, I mean, figure, though it may not be, immediate, because the dependency on this set of merchandise, which is, pharmaceuticals, is critical. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So again, on the engineering side, as we discussed, though we have seen a huge potential, like 44% of the growth happening in the last 5 years. However, if there is a tariff hike imposed in the engineering sector, there are good chances that we may become less competitive in the international market on this product category. And also, if 25% hike is imposed, this may lead to a potential loss of around $5 billion. So they've calculated the volume of this sector and multiplied by 25% tariff. That is how this has been derived. And what are the potential solutions or outcomes on account of this impact? So this could lead to a rise in the price or reduced demand. And if we can negotiate, particularly this is a sector of very close importance for India. In this sector, we should look at reduce line item wise tariff if we can work out, because here reciprocal tariff arrangement could turn out to be in our favor, because lot of for an engineering sector, I'll share some example which I have seen in lot of engineering companies. So a lot of engineering manufacturers import components, devices, technology related items from US. And if they are wanting and if that duty is reduced, then we can again further become more competitive. And after we manufacture that final product, and if we can export not only in US but to other countries across the world, then it could actually be a game changer for us. So instead of resisting the tariff on this, we should open up tariffs, like tariff market for such products which are technology driven or which we cannot manufacture in India. Then this could be a game changer, and this sector has a huge potential to grow. So therefore, we can also look at developing the efficient trade routes, negotiating better trade agreements, or rerouting through any other countries. And the last is the chemical sector. This could also have a impact. So any tariff hike would impact the profitability of the sector. Also, this sector also relies a lot on the petrochemicals. So the global prices, a lot of things. So here it's not so crystal clear that how it will impact. It could go either ways depending on what the government would impose the tariff. However, what could be the possible solution is either they can pass on the tariff, pass on the burden, but the balance needs to be strike off, because we are India, US is not so dependent on this particular tariff, like on this particular category, like the dependency we have in the pharmaceutical sector. So the dependency is not so huge in this particular sector on the Indian exporters, and therefore it could turn either ways. However, China plus one and others export potential should be explored and optimized in this sector. So this I've covered, so I'm skipping right now. And what are the top 12 imports into India from US? So we import almost $42 billion from US, out of which this 12 items contributes to 82% of our imports. And this consists of mineral oils, nuclear reactors, instruments, the medical devices, the plastics and the articles, gems, jewelry, electrical machinery. And again, significant growth has been seen in this line item. Aircraft, spacecraft, it has significantly grown over 65% in 5 years. And again, Sunil bhai highlighted this particular point, that if we can negotiate well, we are already importing, we don't mind reducing duties on this item. Again, we have been importing products under this chapter 32, which is inks, dyes, pigments, and which contributes to almost 61% growth. So this again is a good room for negotiation that we can open up further, as in we are importing. So this import sector should be looked at as if we open up, we are already importing. Then why can't we further open up and reduce our cost of imports and further be competitive, not only for the US markets, but also for the global markets other than US. Now coming to the Gujarat story. So out of the $76 billion of exports from India to US, $20 billion is exported from Gujarat. And the top sectors which Gujarat is exporting to US is, first is a petroleum, which constitutes to around 31% of the total exports. And this is majorly dominated by the biggies, the oil and gas refineries. We should focus on the rest of the items, which is gems and jewelry, pharma, engineering, chemical, textile, fertilizer, plastic items, agro, dairy, and allied products. So this rest of this contributes to around 47% of the total exports from the Gujarat. So again, I would like, if in audience, if somebody is there who is exporting this product category or their views, then I can further share a live story or something like that. Is anybody exporting items from this product category from Gujarat? Like fertilizers or diamonds or linens or jewelry or engineering items? Okay. So again, as we did the analysis of the product level item for exports from India to US, similar has been done for exports from Gujarat to US. And good chances, if we look from a reciprocal tariff perspective, India is on the very higher side. No, we are imposing 10 to 15% of duty on various products, versus US is less than, no, in most of the products it is zero, and rest of the products it is less than 5%, and only few products it is 13%. So the leading products exports from Gujarat is diamonds. Of course, there is a sluggish in the there is sluggish market because of the lab grown diamonds. Photovoltaic cells, diodes, etc., show a promise of almost $1.61 billion, and pharmaceutical is ahead in this line as well. However, what strategic advantage which Gujarat has right now? We already have a strong manufacturing base which we can further increase. Also, we have export infrastructure which can be further enhanced, I believe, and skilled workforce availability is also there. We have good port connectivity. However, on the growth side, we can look at the value added products, then the market diversification and quality enhancement of our products, and further technology integration. And on the technology integration and the quality enhancement side, we can further seek support from US on these lines. So, if you have heard, has anybody heard about this initiative ODOP, One District, One Product? Yeah. So this ODOP initiative is from the objective, and again, it's the vision of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that they want to balance the regional development, and therefore, for every district, they've identified one strong product, and that is how they want to promote exports from India. So ODOP initiative, if we combine that with our strategic move of exports from Gujarat, then sector wise, city wise, we have identified few products which can do a great job, and again we can achieve what targets which are wanting to achieve. So by 2030, India is targeting $2 trillion of exports, right? And we are almost only $431 billion in totality of exports doing right now. So this focused approach of ODOP initiative could do a greater good. So garments and apparels like Ahmedabad is already known. However, the missing link which I could identify is there are a lot of export promotion councils doing a lot of work. However, if we sit together, the industry association, the exporters, and the export promotion councils like apparel EPC, Texprocel, handloom EPC, silk EPC, all of this, if they come together and further focus, if they further focus on this product category, and identify the issues which are holding back to export this product from India, the results can be delivered. Similarly, we have chemical, pharma, chemical, the base is already known, Bharuch, Vadodara, Valsad. So under this ODPOP initiative, these cities are identified, and along with that, the products are tagged. So Himmatnagar and Morbi, we have ceramic, tiles, flags, etc. Rajkot, we have tagged with the engineering goods. For Anand, we have tagged with the dairy products. Then Dwarka, Gir, Somnath, we have tagged with marine and fisheries. Then we can take help of all these export promotion councils which are assigned this objective of promoting exports from India. Right now, in my practical view, what is happening is everybody is doing their job in their own way. Of course, they are doing a fantastic job, but if we align them to ODOP and also this DGFT and various authorities, this could bring a better result, which is again what we are trying to achieve. Developmental areas, if we need, so further where do we lack, or further where we can enhance ourselves? First is infrastructure. A very simple example I'll share day in and day out which we face. So if we just simply talk about custom clearance happening from ports, it's again, it has improved over time, but it's not so easy which is happening in the developed countries. It takes almost 3 to 4 days just to clear my containers and all. So this kind of export like infrastructure is needed, and also state government can support here. They can further tell the respective bodies that okay, what are the issues which are leading to so much of time, right? So from that perspective, we can enhance lot of our infrastructure. Then skill development, again, a very important point I like to make here. I've been visiting like many corporates, and this I've come across. Everybody works in silos in different departments. However, the international marketing team who interacts with the buyers across the world, they are not equipped with the right knowledge to present about their product, their country, etc., and sell, to be able to sell their products in the international market. Lot of companies are doing it good, but if we enhance the skill on this particular aspect, then it can again help us achieve the greater targets. Then quality certification, marketing assistance is greatly needed. So when we work on the ground, these are the missing links, I would say. And I think AMA is also doing great work on putting various seminars, etc. But however, practical approach is also further needed. So it can further lead to a potential impact, like export value addition can be focused, regional development will come in, global competitiveness could be improved. So now on the ending part, what are the possible strategic solutions at the national level, at the state level, and then exporter level, which we can work on? First is, I think lot which is covered, I'll just skip quickly. So capitalize on China plus one strategic opportunities. The way our guest here mentioned that we have not been able to capture that opportunity, which no Bangladesh 1% also we were not able to capture. It is because of the infrastructure. So what measures, what things which can be done, it can be discussed. And zero for zero strategy is very important. However, the important point here is it should not be hurting our domestic sector, domestic manufacturing, and the agri sector. However, swift bilateral trade agreement concerning goods could give a better clarity on these lines. Uh, for export marketing strategy for India and Gujarat, we need a detailed sectoral analysis wherever we are working on. Then expand like we can diversify to newer markets, and organize export focused trade exhibition for ODOP list. I think this is very much required, and if this happens, it can do wonders. Then again, skill development in the international trade, marketing, logistics, then the technical qualifications, etc. And the last, some key takeaways for the Indian exporters, if they are there here in the room. You can keep a close watch on the product wise tariff, whatever is coming up. Then start talking to your existing or prospective customers beforehand in US. I think that could be a real ground scenario, that if you are having your existing customer base in US, you can straight away talk to them and also make them understand that, okay, what is the margin buffer we have. So that would give us a buffer or a cushion that, okay, if 10% duty is increased, whether they will be able to absorb it or not, or whether they would be able to pass it on further to their customers or not. So these are some practical takeaways. Then again, planning for the manufacturing base if required. However, it's not possible for everybody, but still that can be explored. Focus on becoming irreplaceable in your product category. So what I mean here is you can focus on bringing quality in your product or some specialization in your product, which can really make you irreplaceable in your product category. And the last and the most important, which in my experience I have seen many people missing out on various schemes, policies, and government benefits, is like PLI, the mover scheme, foreign trade policy, free trade agreement. So there are a lot of benefits which is currently provided by government of India, and this can easily lead to savings of around minimum 5 to 10%. I'm saying this on a lower side. So if you optimize your strategy around this, it can really do wonders and bring more effectiveness in your supply chain. So overall, to conclude and to sum up, we have talked a lot on the threats also. However, in our entire discussion, we could see except few sectors, most of the sectors could be benefited overall. Reason being a lot of vacuum, because 25% is already being imposed on a lot of countries. And if we were not able to compete on those products, then now I think we can also become competitive on those products. And also making right strategic move could really help us. Thank you.
So, as our learned speakers have rightly pointed out, and Sunil Bhai especially said, there's unnecessary hue and cry. The people have not studied and just making noise about it. Actually speaking, our exports to US is just 76 billion, which is hardly 17.6. So even if the increase of tariff happens, it may not have that kind of impact which we are actually fearing. And there are rather more opportunities which is coming up actually, and we should look at that. Besides, we also have we have India has been exploring various strategies, which includes the trade diversification, boosting domestic industries, and negotiating tariff across the table. And the efforts have already begun, as you have seen. Piyush Goyal was there, Jaishankar Prasad is on a diplomatic level, and other things. We have time for question answer. Maybe we can have 2-3 questions if the audience have. Yeah.
I have two questions. One is this tariff, understanding on the tariff, it will be only limited to US. No, it will not affect other countries. And second question is, because we are importing elevators from China, so US dollar is fluctuating. So we have to make payment in US dollars. We are not getting an opportunity to make a payment in Chinese currency so that we can reduce the price also. Thank you.
So under the WTO agreement, it is said that if I offer imports a lower customs duty on any one country, then I have to offer that same lower duty to all countries. This is called the most favored nation clause in the WTO. But WTO is not working. So now you don't have to do it. A legal way to do it correctly is to have a free trade agreement with the country which is compatible with WTO, which means only the two countries can deal at that tariff and the other countries don't get the benefit. So there are various mechanisms available without doing it legally also. Using the renminbi or the yuan for transaction, Trump will kill you, you know. You have to choose what you want to do. That is exactly what he has said for a new currency for BRICS. Now out of that currency, you are saying go to the Chinese currency. Marega, aur to kya hoga tera? Very difficult, very difficult. We did bilateral trade with Russia, rubles and rupees. This Trump administration has called us out. They said, if you want our support, no dealing with Russia for arms ammunition or for oil or any commodities. We are your friends conditionally. We are deal makers. So the time really has come to India now to decide which way do they want to go. 75 billion to America out of 475, or take that 75 and give it to the rest of the world and then continue to grow. But then you don't get capital, you don't get investments, you don't get defense. If China tomorrow turns against you, it's very difficult to combat China with France and Germany and UK. They themselves, their economies in doldrums. तो हमको बचाएगा कौन? So geopolitical balancing without surrendering our sovereignty is the walk that he has forced us to take a view. And I think the relationship between Modi and Trump is such that we might get away with it. Otherwise, it's a difficult call. It's a very difficult situation that he has put us into. Other questions?
Hi, as small business owners, how do you recommend that we react or take in information and the speed with which these tariffs, these discussions and these counter tariffs or withdrawal of these tariffs is happening? It becomes extremely difficult for us to really figure out what is it that we need to cater to, or what is it that we need to keep as a margin.
I think for small businesses, the biggest advantage is that you can do rerouting through another country. Send it through Yugoslavia or any other country in Latin America who acts as your front and then sends it to the US. It need not be Mexico, it need not be Canada, but Latin America has 53 other countries. It's a continent of 54 countries. And their own market is very big. And they pay top dollars for it. If you want to export to Brazil, it's a very good market. Argentina, very good market. हमने तो यहाँ explore ही नहीं किया. We are all stuck in this routine of G7 countries. आपका volume तो कहीं भी बिक जाएगा. And if you insist on going to the US, you can even go through other countries. So that is the quickest and shortest. But if you want a detailed discussion on your products and all that, then you have to catch hold of Minal. She can really give you some good guidance because she's in touch with many industries, helping them sort out how to combat and reduce their costs by taking advantages of government schemes to reduce your cost by 10 to 15%. So if you're slapped with 10%, you are done. There is no problem. Your costs have come down, you continue. So there are many solutions. But just you have to think about it, that today's idea was to sensitize you about facts and figures, about the framework in which this is happening. What will happen, we also don't know finally. But it helps you to understand newspaper headlines, discussions that take place on television, and you have a perspective on things to help you understand what is going on. Next. BRICS currency? Or
USD, INR.
Oh, that again, there are two theories by experts who are far better than I am. One clearly says that the US dollar, with all these problems, is going to go for a toss. It is going to reduce, in terms of, and Indian currency is likely to rise against the dollar because of this. And when that rises, it affects our exports. So we complain about 5%, 10% duty, and our currency depreciates or appreciates by 10%. So you have a double whammy there. So the RBI has been very busy buying dollars, selling dollars to make sure our currency doesn't appreciate so much. So it creates volatility in the market. So if it is 5-10%, I don't think there is an issue. We have come from 30 rupees to the dollar to now $88.
We faced 5% in less than a month.
Yeah, a month also. Tariff का बड़ा discussion है. लेकिन पीछे तो धक्का तो रोज लगता रहता है.
From an exporter perspective, you benefit because you receive your money higher.
So,
but overall,
movement. Then also there is capital flow, no?
Yeah.
How will capital move from US to India and India to the US? Flight of capital takes place, and it all depends on how India is growing economically. अभी liquidity tight हो गया और government spending कम हो गया, हमारा growth कम हो गया तो market चला गया. तभी everyone is sitting with minus 15% in large cap and minus 20% in small cap. But this is all because of Trump only. Partly Trump and partly are domestic. So many things are at play here with Trump that is difficult to predict what will happen to rupee and dollar. Really, it's we know the variables, but we don't know where each variable will go and how much.
See, normally we very clearly understand that in rupee is a depreciating currency, and that is what is visible in the clear. While we've been behaving better than our neighbors, I think we've been behaving the best among all our neighbors. But then the risk of fluctuation, actually, sometimes the fluctuation is sometimes more than the business margins most of us carry.
So therefore, people say you must plan to, very smartly hedge your currency without paying that hedging amount, which is very prohibitive. It's very expensive. So exports is a very good solution for that, because then you are earning in dollars and your rupee depreciates, then your income is more. So you are able to mitigate the negative impact with marginal imports. And how much should you export? Only to the extent of depreciation of the rupee if you have to pay in local currency. So the exports requirement is only less than 5 to 10% of your products. If it is exported, it insulates you from dollar currency rupee fluctuations very easily.
The gentleman with the cap.
Good evening, sir. Sir, as we seen that while India is doing the bilateral or general trade, so does we will get the benefit in terms of amount which we are going to do into the trades while we do the trade into barter, as you mentioned correctly in your speech. So at that moment, we will get the benefit from other countries, like certainly BRICS and G7 have more power and more influence into the Ministry of Affairs, even though, as we mentioned, WTO has already banned, and right now G7 and BRICS are taking much more in charge. So India will get the benefit in next 3-5 years by getting account payables higher than the receivables, what we get into the in terms of international revenue. Thank you.
No, I didn't really get the heart of your question. Are you talking about another
Yeah.
alternate currency,
Like
or you're talking about dealing in by reciprocal currencies?
by reciprocal
So
currencies.
there is a
Most of,
limitation, even with Russia when we
as
bought
sir
the
also
oil.
mentioned,
Yeah,
while
yeah.
we do the export, we get much more advantage
Yeah.
because of our currency is lower compared to the US. But while we do the import, then we need to pay the amount in multiplication of 80, 82. So the margins are affected. And how? So I'm asking in macro way whether our country will get that benefit and comes into the part of any BRICS kind of the position later on.
Overall, at the macro level, our current account deficit is now about 1.5 to 2% of GDP, which is a very healthy figure. Our foreign exchange reserves are good. Our inflation is under control. Our banking balance sheets and corporate balance sheets are deleveraged. Our NPAs are low in the gov. So we are in a very healthy macroeconomic situation. If there are shocks on account of account receivable at a macro level, then today we have the ability to withstand shocks, which was not the case when we started the journey in 91, 92. So no, I see no cause for concern arising out of accounts receivable at the macro level, if I've understood your question correctly. Thank you.
So if there are no more questions, we will come to the end of this today's session. It's a very interesting session. And on behalf of AMA, I thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Although you are our own council member and middleman, it has been very interesting to help people understand the insights. At AMA, we have various programs in export and import also, besides the other academic program, which help you from skill development to the training of your staff and your own capabilities. So we would request you to keep a tab on the social media handles as well as the website of AMA, and frequently go through. You will definitely find one or another program for yourself and also for your family. So we welcome you all to take the benefit of all these programs. Thank you. Thank you once again. Have a great weekend.